Join me as you and I you take a journey to become better writers together and geek out.
That's not a good sign.
Oh, no.
That hasn't happened in a while.
I don't know what we're all knowing about, but oh, no.
Oh, okay. So was it fine for you?
What, the intro? Yeah.
Yeah. Because on my end, it was all choppy.
No. That's your PC. You need to upgrade.
Well, we know that. We both
do
know
do
that.
do a competition with Izzyverse.
I should do a competition with Izzyverse. Who shall get the new computer?
No. Who builds the better computer?
Voted on by the fans. It better than me. Unless I cheat and put you to build.
No.
Oh man,
he's a crew of one. We can't just have a whole team support you.
That's not my fault. No, actually, no. He has more than one person for Izzyverse, so he does have a couple people with him.
I have a feeling you're trying to find ways so that you can have help.
Yeah, my computer would be something like from the Flintstones. Oh man!
Just stick a hamster in and let the wheel run. That's power efficiency.
Definitely.
So how you doing, man?
I'm doing okay. Are you ready for Comic-Con?
That
sounds like me.
So what about you? Are you ready for Comic-Con?
I better be. I've been working on this thing for like 2-3 weeks now. Working the magic, trying to figure out how we're all going to get in.
So we already know that Tony has his fair share of things he's looking forward to in Comic-Con. What are you looking forward to?
He's going to attack all the panels and a bunch of other stuff that he's looking forward to.
But what are you looking forward to?
I have no idea. All I know is I'm going to go tomorrow and I'm going to pretty much probably enjoy the day and check out what's going on. And there's a lot of our friends that are going to be there at the convention itself.
Indeed, there's a decent amount of our friends who are going to be there.
Yeah, every time I turn around, somebody else is in there, and I'm like, damn.
Well, that's how it always goes.
If you look at our Instagram, let me see if I can put that up. All right, let's. Yeah, it's like person after person after person, and I'm like, damn. All right, let's see. Bitten Apple TV.
So, explain to people who've never been, what is New York Comic Con?
New York Comic Con is a big version of all those little Comic Cons all over the state and city and country that is huge into everything from media to comics to it's just all over the place. Cosplay. It used to be just a little comic book show. Now it's much more than that.
Indeed it is.
Even for a while it had a bunch of anime in it.
No. That's not what happened. You know that's not what happened.
I know that's not what happened. But it's true.
They like to say that's what happened, but that's not what happened.
For a while there, it was just a bunch of anime. They even had a whole floor for themselves.
Listen, the OG Anime NYC or whatever it was like New York Anime or something like that, was its own separate show. And so that both conventions can take over the whole Javits, because before you were never allowed to have the whole center. They decided to team up where if you bought one ticket for one show, you could go to both.
Right.
That's how it started. It was not the same con. And then they killed it.
Yeah, these are just a couple of the ones, because I had way more up before, but as the day progresses, the older ones go away. You got Marty Grabstein, our pal. He's going to be at booth 4058. Of course, you saw that we in the beginning over here we had hold on, Royal Collectibles, who are at booth 3519, and of course our pal Jaco Tarruga. I always mess up his name. He's gonna be at booth 1957. Our pal Bella Ratchlin is going to be at F44 in Artist Alley. Let's see who else. Oh, Chrissy Zulo is going to be at F18 in Artist Alley. And Uminga is going to be at E18. And I had a ton more people set up on our stories or whatever you want to call it, just showing off who's going to be there. Ace is going to be there. Fat Guy is going to be there. Phil's going to be there. Izzy's going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
It's just going to be full of people we know.
Indeed, it is.
And we're going to have a lot of fun bringing it to you people. Just let us know what you want us to cover or what you want us to, where you want us to be, because sometimes having ideas is a good thing.
Jordan wants us to be at Source Point Press.
Well, that's a given. We always at Source Point Press. Ever since we met them at Garden State Comic Fest, it's been a love affair.
No. Jordan said he wants us to be there, so we gotta go there.
Well, we were already gonna be there, so I feel like Jordan just wants us to pick up his stuff.
Yes, Ralph. That's exactly why he wants us to go there.
It's gonna be an interesting convention.
So Thursday, when all those pop fans are rushing over to get their $30 plastic figures, we're going over to Source Point Press.
Yeah, because they have a lot of announcements. They actually have like 3 panels going on. One of them is Source Point themselves. One of them is Dirk Manning and a couple of the guys. And I think another one is Source Point with a couple of our pals from Source Point Pro. So they're going to be busy.
There you go.
And Naseed Gifted has a couple of panels he's going to be on as well.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah, dude, this is going to be one busy convention. I don't think we're going to be able to cover everything we're supposed to cover.
Will this finally be the convention you go to panels?
Well, yeah. I'm going to a panel or two.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm going to a panel or two. That's a given. It's I just have to figure out when I'm going and what's going on. I always lose track of
this, people? This man here is going to a panel to sit down and probably not film.
We've filmed panels before. They get some kind of traction, but now that the NYCC does it itself, but I think you need to pay to see the initial video.
Yep.
But that's usually that's a lot of memory or film or whatever you want to call it.
Listen, it just doesn't have the same effect as watching a panel in 480p off of some person's bad-looking iPhone, just filmed from the top. Okay,
that is
where you do. Exactly.
That's what we usually do. I think we've only filmed on the Canon a panel like 2 or 3 times.
I used to film some of the panels, but then they never got uploaded because the audio was always terrible.
Yeah, because we needed a better mic.
Yep.
Yeah, because our usual mic just doesn't work for that. Our usual mic is made for close-up interviews.
Indeed.
All right. We all know we're going to be busy this week with New York Comic Con, but we brought in Madelyn Janelle because she is working on Inktober and she's doing a fantastic job at it. What made you decide to, jumping right into it, do Inktober? Because I know sometimes some artists do it, some artists don't do it.
I've been doing it for 8 years. This is my 8th year. When I first saw it, it was kind of going back to our earlier conversation. Inktober started because Jake Parker wanted to get better with ink pen and particularly brush pen.
Right.
And ink is not forgiving at all. So that's how that all started. When I read watched his video on how he started with that, I got in my head, I was like, it can't be that hard. Well, 8 years later, and I still find ways to struggle with ink because past Madelyn decided to say it wasn't that hard. So I think I will always participate in Inktober in some way, even if it's not like a daily drawing. it might be like a weekly thing or at least just one nice tribute for that month.
Right.
But this was a humbling exercise for me that I partake in every year now because it's humbling and it's also a nice challenge that I really enjoy.
Oh, it definitely is, because you know, it's what, one a day. It's not even like one every 2 days or one. It's
Yeah.
one a day.
Yeah. Yeah.
That sounds busy.
Yeah. Well, with an unforgiving medium, it's not like sketching with pencil, or if you shade it a little bit darker, then nobody notices that mistake. Like it's either on the paper or it's not.
Well, it's a definite. And I've been watching what you did. I thought it was a great idea that you came up with to do book covers, because you know it kind of helps you out a bit, right?
Yeah, it does, because I always have a story that goes behind a piece, even if it's just a technical story, like I need to practice with this medium or practice on this subject matter. There's always a reason why I'm doing what I'm doing. And with book covers, it kind of adds in like those book trailers, like, okay, how do I hook this person into reading this? So that's kind of the challenge for me this month, is which of the like storylines I make up for the drawings, which one is compelling enough for somebody to be like, okay, write this story now.
I was gonna start from the Inktober stuff, but this stuff, I love this one. It came out really cute, and I like your
Well,
story behind it.
that's for Inktober too. It's for my patrons though. It's a postcard.
Mm. Yeah, I was like listening to what you talk about it, and how you decided to make the pumpkins and the little cat. Do you want to share that?
Oh yeah. So each of the pumpkins represents the kids that I have now, like that are alive on Earth, and so there's 8 of them, and then the cat is the miscarriage that I have of our daughter. That, you know, she's obviously no longer with us, but the kids wanted to kind of include her in a way, and I let
Right.
them tell me what to draw. So this is their idea that I executed.
It was really nice. It's really cute. But it's more than cute. It's ethereal. It brings all the pieces in. I can see why you created this, because it's the family and it's more.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful piece.
Thank you. I really like that one too.
Here we go. So I'll have that playing in the background while we talk, and I'll move on to the next one, because it's always interesting to see how you put all this stuff together. I like the fact that you've gotten really good at showing your process,
Thank you.
especially for TikTok. And I know that can be really difficult, especially because before I had constraints. Now at least you have a little bit more time to play with.
Yeah. With these, I kind of did take the advice of a lot of people that were saying exactly what you said, like enjoying seeing the process.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's really fun to make transition videos with, you know, the between the materials and then the finished piece. But I mean, showing the process, there's storytelling in itself.
Yeah.
Even if I say no words, you just kind of see like where I started and why I started in that spot and then finished in a different spot. So it's a really nice kind of change of video right now.
It definitely is, and it's really relaxing. You know, I've always liked watching people work on their art, and I find it such a relaxing. And I feel like for me, it started from Bob Ross, you know, and his happy little cloud, you know.
Oh yeah.
And you know, now when I look at somebody else do it, I'm like, okay, you know, this has a Bob Ross feel to it.
Yeah.
I feel like that's my grading system. It's like, does it feel like Bob Ross?
Yeah.
Does it feel?
Does this
It
make
doesn't
me
feel like
happy
Bob
the way
Ross?
Bob
No.
does?
And
That should be actually, I think you should make that into a t-shirt, because that would be a #1 bestseller. Like, if this doesn't make you as happy as Bob Ross does, get rid of it. Just
there
do
you
away
go.
with it.
That's actually good. Yeah, you're right. That is a good
It's good philosophy.
It's good philosophy in life. And
Yeah.
to me, it's always funny because, you know, I grew up with Bob Ross, with Fred Rogers, with
Yeah.
Lamar Burton, you know,
Yeah.
and
Oh
to
yes,
me,
I love
these are the
him
guys
so
that
much.
created who I am, you know, and I always give them credit for it, because, especially Mr. Rogers, because you know, when I was a kid, I had all this stuff pent up inside of me, and
Yeah.
he was the first person to like that I felt understood what was going on inside,
Yeah.
and was telling me that, yeah, it's going on in there. Don't worry about it.
Yeah,
It's life.
that was the big thing. It was him saying, "No, it's okay that you're doing that. It's okay that you're feeling that.
Hmm.
Tomorrow's a new day. Don't worry about
Exactly.
it." Yeah, I totally relate to that.
Yeah, and it's also the fact that, especially as kids, we never feel like our emotions are valid.
Yeah.
And with him, it was like, it's valid. You're angry. What are you going to do with that? How are you going to form or help your anger come out in a way that it doesn't hurt other people?
Right.
And it's a great thought to have, like, oh, okay, so I can be angry. I make sure not to hurt somebody.
Right. Right.
Oh man. So speaking of people who have inspired us, where does your inspiration come for your art?
It's really a hard one, but again, on the same side, it's not like I'm a very creative thinker. Everything sparks an idea or continues another one. But I think a lot of my drive for art comes from the fact that I do have so many kids and I'm raising them and interacting with them every single day. And they're just so curious. And they have this, that ignorance is bliss type of thing. They're
Yeah,
kind of like that because they're children. They don't need to know everything about life right now.
right. They
So
just want to. They just want a little bit of information.
they just need a little bit just to keep them alive and let them have fun. But
Exactly.
it's so much of their response to things. Like they'll see, like, one of the weirdest things for me is that we went hiking and we saw like an animal skeleton of sorts in the woods while we were hiking. And my kids, instead of like freaking out or thought it was like so cool, they came up with this whole thing about what they thought happened and
Ooh.
why that skeleton was there. And that was just kind of like, I really do get my inspiration from you guys because everything could turn into anything else. So it's almost hand in hand. But they kind of give me my drive, I think, more than anything else, just because I want to be able to fill their world with the things that they see and get it onto paper so that way they can actually physically hold it.
It's always great when your muses are close by, because sometimes
Yeah.
your muse is far away, or we can't help what our muse is sometimes, and that can all get into other places. But it's good to have the muse there and present, and I completely understand what you're talking about, because my brain works exactly like kids does, where I see something and there's a whole story.
Yeah.
We've talked before, and you see me go, there's a story here.
Well, the reality is there's a reason for everything.
Right.
Everything's there because of something else, or everything's going to happen because of something else, similar to the butterfly effect.
Hmm.
So if we don't know anything and we're not doing any harm by coming up with a story,
Yeah.
why not live life trying to figure that out?
Yeah, makes life more interesting, makes life
Yeah.
more fun, and I feel like one of the things that is frowned upon as we grow older is, they want you to lose your imagination, they want you to
Yeah.
stop dreaming, they want you to, and I've never understood why they want you to do that. I'm like, it's, isn't it your dreams and your imagination that help you move forward? So
Yeah.
why are you going to take this away from everybody?
Right. And with experience comes a better imagination,
Exactly.
in my opinion. A lot of people go through a lot of pain in their life, and depending on their personality, they channel it in different ways. And honestly, like anything that I experience, I'm not a great emotional type of person. I never really have been. So emotions for me definitely come out through my artwork or through anything. Like if I'm just rearranging the living room or redecorating, whatever, just like whatever I'm feeling for that will completely happen. It has nothing to do with the future, everything to do with present now. So I think that's just the best way for me to process anything like that. And to have adults who have learned how to navigate life better than they did at 13 still want to be creative and continue those endeavors, just to shut them down, it really is, it's a shame. And it's really sad because it's like nobody wants to be an adult then except to have adult money, and even then not anybody really is thrilled after 10 years of spending adult money. Then they're like, well, this still sucks. So
It does. And it's funny that you say that because you know, like I don't really believe in the whole, you know, to labels of the generations, but at the same time, when I look at Gen X and I look at myself, I'm like, oh, that is me.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm not gonna say that everybody's the same, but at the same time, you know, there's things that made Gen X Gen X that
Yeah.
have shaped me for who I am. And so I have to at times go, okay, so maybe there's some truth to it, you know, or my generation was just messed up from the get go.
Either way, it sounds about right.
Exactly. You know, and I do know that we were raised in a certain way, and we were raised differently than everybody else because, you know, we were latchkey kids. A lot of our, I know, and it's funny to say that, but I remember we would go from house to house, and there was no parents.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
we were waiting for our parents to come home, or we had rules where we would be home by a certain time, and
Yeah.
then we would just get home by that time.
Yeah.
Not that it always worked, and not that my whole generation came out of it alive, but you know.
I mean, it's a big cultural influence. And like I'm considered millennial, like the elder millennial.
I was about to
Again,
say elder millennial.
well, and what's funny is that I relate more to a Gen X criteria than I do a millennial because my sister is 5 years older than me. I'm the youngest of two, and we weren't like a close-knit family. So I grew up kind of just mimicking what she did. And she's considered Gen X. So a lot of what, you know, Gen X, they say this, you know, they have this and this and this. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I remember that too. And my best friend, she's actually considered Gen X as well. And she's, you know, always tells me, she's like, I always forget that you're not my age, that you're actually younger than me. But you just know because I grew up in that, I just grew up a little bit faster, I guess. You know what I mean? Just because I latched on to that kind of stuff. But at the same time, I binge watched Rugrats and Doug and all that stuff. I mean, I was recording it at 3 a.m. on my VHS tape. So like the way you did with the radio, stuff like that. And I mean, I relate to that kind of stuff too. But I think
just you saying that brings you up into my generation.
yeah, right. Like, but it's like I grew up with the Nickelodeon area too.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I think a lot of my my courage to draw quote weird things came from growing up with Nickelodeon. And it's not like I draw like a lot of weird stuff, but it's just like I'm not falling in line with what is mainstream art all the time. You know, like drawing book covers is not mainstream. You know, people don't think, oh, what book cover did somebody illustrate?
Exactly.
Nobody cares really. But it's a fun idea that people that like different artistry will appreciate more than just like mainstream type of stuff.
I can see what you're saying because I've looked at your art and it has this quality, quality of like a little bit of aloof, a little bit of you know, supernatural into it, a little bit of you know, that whole aspect of life, you know, like that the darkness of life, but it's still being bright.
Right.
Yeah. You know, which we grew up with. You know, that was a lot of our shows.
Yeah, it really was. You don't realize the heaviness of a lot of those shows until you get older.
Oh, definitely.
And you're like, oh, so that's probably why I felt like I was emo when I really wasn't. But that's fine.
Oh yeah, especially like it's not even the later like the earlier shows, but the later shows like the X-Men, you know, in the 90s and stuff like that was just like, you know, had this dark edge to it at the same time was a kid show, and you're like,
yeah.
Nightmare Before Christmas.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's like that's super cute, but is it like
exactly
is bagging Santa Claus really the way to go? It's fine.
Yeah, I have a couple of friends actually that are just like you, where they're stuck. You know, they're elder millennials, but at the same time, they seem to be more on the Gen X side of things. So I can completely understand where you're coming from.
Yeah.
You know, and my brother's 5 years younger than me, so I understand that dynamic.
And it is a difference. You think 5 years doesn't make that big of a difference, but that's 5 years of different culture advances,
Yep.
Especially in technology, from going to a car phone, like car cell phone, to a pager, to a actual cell phone, and then to this flip phone type of thing was all within like 7 years or something of each other. It was a very short time span when they expanded communication technology. So whoever was older and had the money could keep up with that, and who didn't was just left behind. So it's very interesting to hear and see and observe like the differences that 5 years could make between two people.
Completely, and I know a lot of my generation, when it comes to technology, they should be in par with it, because we were raised with it. But at the same time, I know a couple of friends that they can't understand their iPhones, or they don't get the computers, and I'm like, dude, we were raised with this stuff.
Don't let Gen Z take this from us. Figure it out.
Yeah, because I remember going to the computer lab and playing King's
Yes,
Quest,
yes.
and all that stuff. So I'm like, okay, what do you mean you don't know about computers? Come on, we were there.
Yes, and I'll tell you right now that the whole typing program, the class that you had to take,
I remember that.
with the book, and you had to do this. I have looked everywhere for that kind of program, because I'm convinced there is no other way to learn how to type unless you're in a classroom with the textbook and going like this and typing from it. But I guess I've been trying to find that for my kids because we homeschool them. So I'm just like, I'm watching them type normally. I'm like, you just don't understand it. You don't appreciate typing the way I appreciate typing. And they're like, whatever, mom, cool.
I completely understand you, because I'll talk to people and go, yeah, we had typing class.
Yeah.
And and then I had a typing teacher from hell. So he would make you stand up and be like A, S, D, F, and G.
Oh my word.
You see, it's still there.
Yes.
And it was one of those moments, and this guy was like, it was like a drill instructor,
Oh, yeah.
and it was taking the typing class. So, I would be like,
You memorized everything out of fear. That's when fear actually worked.
Oh my God, yeah. And anytime I talk about typing class, they're like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
And I know that like later on, it became typing class using the computer, and it was a little different,
Mhm.
and they had the program that helped you learn how to type. But yeah, no.
Yeah.
No way. And then typing on a typewriter is something completely different.
Oh, but I love that.
Yeah.
My first time ever using a typewriter was right after my grandmother passed away. We came back to live in her house, and she had one, and I figured out how to change the ribbon.
Oh.
And I treated it like it was such a delicate thing. But those things are pretty diesel if you break it down. But I would just slowly type like this, and it was so therapeutic. I think I was giving myself therapy at the age of 9 and 10 just with a typewriter, and it was so beautiful.
I know what you're talking about, because that sound.
Yes, and then the ding.
And ding.
Yes.
It could be frustrating as heck, but no, when you got into a flow.
Yeah.
So yeah, but see, that's the whole thing. It's all creative. I feel like we've lost the sense of everything is creative. Everything helps you get to everything helps you in your journey to where you're gonna go.
Yes, it does.
And I
it
feel
really
like
does.
we've lost that completely, and everybody's like in a rush to get to the final destination instead of enjoy the journey.
Yep, I completely agree with that.
And I like the fact that you're homeschooling the kids, because that has to be a whole different experience for you, for them.
I don't know if they for me, it's different because I was in public school my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
But I was also one of those kids that, had I known homeschooling was for anybody and not just like kids that were limited,
right,
I would have begged my mom from day one. I would have benefited from homeschooling so much. For them, I think we just spend so much time teaching them, like, okay, if we're not here and it's your day, how are you handling your day on your own? Because really what's important is not filling up their entire day with work and extracurricular activities. They're going to have downtime. They're going to have days where they don't have any plans or anybody to hang out with. what is something that they can do for themselves,
Exactly.
even if it's just a day of rest. They acknowledge that they need rest. So it's more of that kind of learning and teaching that we do in the house, with academics. And it's worked out. Like, they understand that I'm not a very strict teacher, but I'm a very consistent teacher, where I'm just like, okay, it's past 9 o'clock. You gotta do something. You know what I mean? But at the same time, at the end of the day, if I haven't stayed on them, I'll just be like, what did you do today? What were your accomplishments with school today? And sometimes they'll be like, nothing. And I'm like, so you have extra work to do tomorrow? Is that what you're saying? And then they have to evaluate that for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're kicking themselves on a Saturday, because I'm like, you have to finish this assignment, So I think that experience for them, I hope, is something that is going to stick with them more than who was the 17th president. You know what I mean? Like, I want them to understand that they can find the answers. They can research their work. They can get this stuff done, but they have to learn how to manage their time and their life and balance it with the things that they absolutely love.
And that's a fantastic lesson. It's a lesson we don't really learn in school.
Oh, no.
Because either you're trying to rush to do something, or they're giving you stuff that you need to do by a certain time, or a deadline, or whatever it is. You're not really taught that. Look, dude, it's your life.
Yeah.
You need to get things done. You need to do things. You need to figure out how you're going to do it, because that's what we need to do in life is figure out how we're going to get the things done that we need to get done.
Right.
So I feel like that's a great lesson to learn. And it sounds like you're teaching them very well, because, like I said, there's times where you'd go to school and you're so stressed out with what you need to do, when you need to do it, when you need to get it done, that sometimes you lose the love of living life.
Yeah. And I feel so bad when that happens at such a young age. And I realize that a lot of people don't have the luxury of being able to give themselves or even their own kids the leeway to find their path in life. But it's something that I want my kids to understand, that you're going to have struggles when you want the life that you want to have. And they're not going to stop just because you reached your goal. Like, new struggles are going to happen.
Exactly.
And if nothing's happening in your life, then you're probably just sitting still, and you need to shift some things up. And I think a couple of my kids are like, that sounds really dumb. But I'm just like, you'll understand eventually. But until then, go do your math, please.
It is a bad place to be when you're, because life passes you by really quickly.
Yes.
And you're stuck in that place where you're still, you're losing time, you're losing moments that you can be doing something else. I completely understand what you're saying. And that's another lesson that we don't learn, because what we're taught is do your job. And then 10 years pass by and you've been doing your job and you didn't realize 10 years passed by.
Yeah.
And then you realize that 10 years passed by. You're like, oh, what the heck was I doing?
Yep.
Oh my God. Yeah. Standing still is not, it can be a good thing if you need to relax or you need to find yourself. But if you do it for too long, you're going to be stagnant still.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Look at that, we're going into philosophy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, honestly, like, what else is there when it comes to art and writing?
Yeah.
Any kind of artistry has some sort of philosophy tied in.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Because that's what makes the art. That's what makes the writing. Is we're constantly thinking. We're constantly assessing. We're constantly looking at the world through the eyes that we have and trying to figure it out. I know a lot of people think, oh, they have it. They know what they're doing. They know what they're saying. I'm like, no.
I just learned how to smile through it. That's why I know what I'm talking about.
Exactly. And that's the whole thing. It's learning to look at the world, assess the world, live in this world, and understand that you're going to make mistakes as well as everybody else. Because you don't want to start thinking that you're perfect.
Right.
But the art helps you do that. As long as you're letting the art live and living in the art, it helps you move in a flow like water.
Right.
Speaking of which, Your beautiful covers here are fantastic. We've been showing them off as we've been talking here. Um, you've done what, 5 so far?
Yeah. Today was the 5th day.
All right,
That
so
one.
okay. Well, look, we made it right to it. So starting with this one, tell us about your process. Tell us about creating them.
So there's a prompt list. There's like the official prompt list that you can use. One year I used like my own prompts. But for the sake of not thinking any more than I already had to, I decided to use their prompt list. And so every word is like supposed to be this book title. So I'm coming up with the cover for basically the book title that consists of the prompt. And this one's a flame. This one is kind of talking about, oh, thankfully it's a talk to text, so I'm not doing any of the narrating. But it says that it's just a story about this woman that her husband said that they've grown apart. They've been together 23 years. So they have to figure out whether they're going to make it work or not. So in my head, I had to make sure I come up with a captivating title with a story that is going to be extremely relatable with a picture that is going to tie in with what any of it's talking about. So I looked into wedding ceremonies, a really popular wedding ceremony, or I don't even know what it's called, but it's part of the wedding ceremony. But they both use their candle to like one candle.
2 candles to 1, yeah.
Yeah. So for this one, it was just the one candle because that's supposed to represent the union.
Right.
But it's shortened in the picture on purpose, kind of like it's sitting in the dark and there's only so much light that's there that you can see.
Right.
So the book title I gave it was From Flames to Ashes, because there's always like that, that heat, that spark in the beginning of a relationship. And then sometimes it's dead. So it would have burned it all up. So that one, this whole thing has so much symbolism for a book that doesn't exist.
Dude, man, I was going to say, oh, where can I read this book? Dude, I thought you were actually making, before, I thought you were actually making book covers to books that already existed. And then I realized, wait, no, these books don't exist.
They don't exist. They don't exist. I'm so sorry. And if I honestly, if I could like steal 2 hours every day, I would love to just like free write, like, an excerpt from what I think this book would have, and then submit that to a publisher and be like, look, I want to get paid something for this, but please publish this book. I want to read that. So
that's a great challenge.
Yeah, it is a pretty big challenge, but again, it's one of those things where, it just takes one thing to get the ball rolling. And this could have gone different directions. Actually, when I first thought of Flame, it was going to be for dragons, since I was doing a lot of dragon artwork. And I thought that would be a nice way to kind of tie in that subject matter into Inktober. But I also thought, you know what? Let's push something outside of the comfort zone subject matter, because I could draw, krakens and dragons all day, but drawing a candle in a monochromatic way and ink was so challenging, even though it's only like this big.
Dude, man, yeah, it's funny that you saw when he finally showed it to us. I was like, I thought it was a bigger piece. Especially like watching you do it. I'm like, oh, okay, because I guess I didn't realize, like, watching your hands, how small.
Yeah, you don't, well, because you get up close, it's a camera trick.
Exactly.
It's like what those the ASMR eaters, they put their camera on their food like right here.
Exactly.
So it looks like it's bigger than it is. So yeah, that's a camera trick.
I gotta admit, I was looking at this one earlier, and I love how it came out. It really came out really well.
Thank you.
And it does. It tells a story. It does look like a book cover, and you're like, ooh, hey.
Yeah, I have been tagging like Penguin House and HarperCollins and some other book publishers. I was like, just keep me right there on the back burner. I'm gonna keep tagging you guys until you block me. Okay.
It's like, look what I can do.
Yes. I've gotten past that part of my my pride, where I'm just like, no, I don't want to tag them too much. No, I'm going to tag you until you block me or until you contact me and say, look, we get it, but we're not interested. Like, okay, cool. Thank you. But I'm going to call you again or contact you again in another year.
Oh, definitely. Dude, and speaking of dragons, because I love your fantasy stuff. You do amazing fantasy stuff.
Thank you.
And and you do amazing dragons and phoenixes or phoenix eyes or whatever it is.
Those firebirds.
Exactly. Well, firebirds aren't those the ones from North America? Oh, see, now we're going.
Now let's go on. That's a muscle car.
Yeah, because as soon as you say firebirds, I think of Native Americans. I think about this whole myth and legends from North America, and I'm like, wait a minute, there's a
too
story
many meetings. Too many. There we go. Like there's like so many meetings for 2 words.
Exactly.
You can't put us together because we'll just have everything done.
Exactly. And speaking of which, we've been working on the let's write a story together here in the background, and I know you're busy at the moment, so but it still doesn't matter because I'm still trying to fix it so it's the coherent story we like. I did write the first small piece. I know that the guys hate the corgi. And I know Nat knew I was going to throw that in because the corgi was thrown in there as a joke, and somebody took it and ran with it. And now the corgi is one of the heroes.
Why is this happening? I'm so sorry. I can't help it. It's part of the universe now.
Exactly. And they're like, Ralph, it was a joke. I'm like, I'm not the one that threw it in there.
It seems like you're the only one laughing because this is awesome.
It was so funny because they threw the corgi in. It was a joke. And then somebody else is sending me notes going, dude, what if the corgi this and this and this and this? And I'm like, ooh, the guys are not going to like that.
Perfect.
Well, if everything goes right, the corgi might have a heroic death. Because right now he's a hero of heroes.
That's okay. I think there's just like those stories that really do call for that because it's like it's not gut wrenching. It's like ripping your heart out of your chest and then loving that just happened. It's such a weird feeling. But it's a good story.
As a writer, it's always like, I don't know if I want to kill him off, but
that's my best friend. Yeah. She writes, and one day I'm going to get her on here. So I just want to hear you guys interact with each other. Mm-hmm. But she's that way. She'll just like message me and she's like, I'm about to kill everybody in my story. I'm like, do it. As long as it's not an autobiography, go for it, honey. Go do whatever you want. And so it's just so funny because she's like, if anybody was just listening in, like the FBI agents are listening in, they're just, hearing her plot this murder and they would be highly concerned.
I would say the same thing. If the FBI broke into my house and started looking through the computer, I'd be in big trouble.
I got a lot of explaining to do. Sorry.
So this thing here is talking about killing the whole world. Why are you looking at that?
Calm down. It's not like I have uranium in my house or anything.
Oh my God. I am not a supervillain, even though I play one on TV, but
yeah.
Oh, but I love being creative. I love the whole fun of it, and I think I've gotten along with you so well is because I feel like you have the same thought process when it comes to creating that I do, and you are so good at finding. And I know you get this all the time, finding what people are thinking and putting it up, and drawing it up.
Yeah,
I know that you get that a lot.
It's funny because, like I said before, I was never really great with emotions, but I'm a very intuitive person with somebody's like intentions. I can't tell you if they're happy or sad or angry, whatever, depressed, whatever, while they're really talking to me, but I can like really pull what they're trying to say, like what their intentions are without them really trying to say it. And I don't know what that is because I don't like kind of like diving into mainstream labeling that they do, like, oh well, if you're not a narcissist then you must be an empath type of thing. I'm like, all that just sounds exhausting. But I think it's just I find it very fascinating when somebody's like, hey, I have this vision. It's almost like a desire to get in their head. Yeah. And that's where all that comes from. It's like, okay, well, what I need to know. So keep talking to me. And as they're talking, I can really just like kind of feel what they're trying to say. And I think a lot of that too has to come from experience, and studying art in different formats and you know, studying the masters and how they used color to express a mood or a certain pose. Like, you know, you break down any sort of like Michelangelo piece or something, and you know, the hand was strategically placed over here when, you know, to random person, they're like, it's a hand. Like, it's not that deep. Like, it actually is. Sorry, we artists have problems and we have to just push it as far as we can. So I think with that, it's just, it's really rewarding to hear somebody say, yeah, you totally get what I was trying to say.
And your art is so fluent. It flows so much. And I can see, like, especially when I'm on your page and when you're on your TikTok, and I've seen like all the people who have commissioned things for you, and they talk and they're like, I'm like, you just took it straight out of my mind.
Yeah.
You know, that's just amazing, you know, and I've seen you do it. So I can see that it's, you know, it's not like an exaggeration. You actually dive into it, you know. When we
Yeah.
worked on the collab together with the Portal story, you, it was amazing how you did my piece, you know, because it was kind of how I was envisioning it. You know,
Yeah.
it comes in here at the set of Writ, and the whole thing happens, and you actually got it did on.
Yeah. I mean, it's really easy to pick up on what matters to you when talking to you. So I think that's why it was really like that piece. I had like that whole project had to be pushed back to next year, because it was going in too many different directions. So I had to pull it back a little bit more so I can get like a solid skeleton going with that. And I remember working on your piece and just thinking in my head, I could hear your voice. I could see everything happening. I could see your evil villainous self coming through with the laugh, and just like, you know, that villain just does not care. And then, you know, Earth Ralph is just like, you know what, we're going to do this and it's going to happen and it doesn't matter. So it was, that piece was actually really, I had a lot of fun with that collaboration. That was fun.
It's funny because all your Portal pieces came out really nice, and like as I was looking through your Portal pieces, even the ones you did on your own, I was like, oh, I got a story here, I got a story bit here.
Yeah.
I even did one for you know, where I put an Alice type character into it, you know, that with the guy hanging out on the portal.
Oh
You
yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and I was like, oh, this is, I can see this. I can see
Yeah.
like you know, mischievous people just playing around with this whole thing.
Yeah. That character is a jerk. I like drawing him though. Like, and it's very, again, it's that same thing like I did with Captain. It's like androgynous, because I want somebody to put themselves in that character.
Exactly.
You know, I want people to be able to express themselves through that piece, like their story, like particularly you. Like I want them to hear your story. But in certain characters, I want them to be distorted in some way so you can fit yourself into that. And there are plenty of people out there that like to stir the pot for no reason, but they love that. And that's what that character is just like that. Like they did all of this out of spite because they could. And it's like, well, thanks a lot. Now we have a whole lot of stuff to clean up. And it's all these different drawings that happen. Like this one. Oh yeah, it's kind of hard to see.
Hold on, I'll
That
put you
one
up so you can
is
see a little better.
okay. I can pull it off the wall. So like this one, turn it that way.
Yeah, I saw that one. That looks nice.
So this one is not done, but it's my she just turned 5 today, but she was 4 years old, and this is her 2-year-old brother. And they're very feral type of children. Like here, like for me, they're just wild and loud and messy, like very unlike my other kids.
Right.
And then the flip side of this in this other world is the 2-year-old brother as the 4-year-old, and
cool.
the 4-year-old sister as the 2-year-old. So, but they're in a feral world, and they have a more structured type of mindset and look. So that's how they kind of flip-flopped here. And this is an idea from my best friend, actually. She's like, why don't you make their, you know, opposites non-feral, since they are the feral kids here? I was like, oh my gosh, you're so brilliant.
Yeah,
so that one has a lot of that meaning too.
Well, you said it's not finished, but it's already, you can already see the heart and the life in it. So I have to admit, like, even if you're saying it's not finished, I'm like, dude, that looks good. You know, it's funny. I can just see you having some kind of comic book project or some kind of story project. Have you ever considered it?
Yes, I have too many to count, but one for sure that I have started over 4 times.
Wow.
And it's like that story that I know, whether it becomes something for the rest of the world, it will be exactly something for me. It'll be like what I was wanting to challenge myself for. Once I like get started on it and I finish it, I know it'll just be like that child that you saw from a baby and infant to grown up and on their own now. And that story is like, it's so meaningful to me. But I have considered that. I really want to dive into that, but it's not something that I trust myself with completing yet. And I can't leave that story untold. So I have considered, I just have not started. The Parallel project was kind of the test runner for me, because it stemmed from COVID, where people were like, oh my gosh, I just wasted, like what we're talking about, I wasted 10 years of my life at this company that doesn't like me. And what am I supposed to do now? I'm fired because there's a virus going all over the place, and I could have been doing this. And that's exactly what all that stemmed from. It's like, so like the portal jumper, as much of a jerk as they may be, but they're the ones that like kickstarted the whole thing, just like COVID kickstarted this whole thing. It's very much of a jerk of a virus, and and they like, stirred all this stuff for no reason. And that's what Parallel was, kind of more self-reflecting and kind of getting other people to kind of self-reflect for themselves.
Which is good. Like we were saying earlier, it's that thing that we tend not to do because either we're scared of it, or we don't have time, or we just get so lost in the daily grind that we lose that bit of ourselves, that amazing piece of ourselves. I can tell you the same thing. Like when I was working my 9-to-5 job, I was never gonna leave, and then fate said, "Dude, you're not gonna stay here."
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, fine, I won't stay there. And then I dove into all this, and things have been along faster than they would have if I would have stayed over there. Even though
right,
not having the money kind of slows things down, but at the same time, the creative aspect of things kind of like balances everything out.
Right, and finding I've learned that finding your audience does not take everything that a lot of people say it does. A lot of information to get like your work out there in front of the right audience comes from like an influencer type of mindset. When I don't want to be an influencer, I want to talk to people and engage with them about what I'm doing, because they think that my artwork is worth it. So like what you said, going to that, like having the money, not like having the right amount of money, really does slow things down. But at the same time, you're building up this nice foundation with the little bit that you have.
Right.
And that way, when it starts to like really take off, there's already so much there. And people love going down a rabbit hole. So it doesn't matter if it's just stuff from 5 years ago or whatever. I can tell you, like, people have said, hey, I looked at your old YouTube videos. You really did not sound good. I'm like, listen, I was not great at voiceovers. I was like shut out in this room, super nervous, but I forced myself doing that. And I realized I was not that type of art YouTuber, I guess. I wasn't like, hey, everybody, welcome back to my channel. Like, I can't do it.
I can't do that. Yeah.
I would rather just not say anything and just put some really cool music to it, and it'll be fine. But it really makes you have to find your voice when you're doing it all on your own. And that's what like you rely on, because you don't want to follow somebody else's voice.
Exactly. It's funny that you said that, because I was going to bring up your TikTok. I love what you do with it. I'm completely entertained by it. I actually wait for you to put something up, because I know you're going to go. Sometimes you'll go in a completely different direction than I think you're going to do. And I feel like you're constantly changing things up, and then you'll come back to something, and I'm like, oh, this is just her. So how do you decide what you're going to do with your TikTok? And I feel like you answered half of it now, but I feel like there's more to it.
There's not. I wish I had more just like this awe-inspiring thing, but there's not. Unless I already have, like, I do treat some of my artwork as very goal setting. I have my list. I have the things that I need to. I do set deadlines for myself, but at the same time, depending on what is like on the forefront for me, sometimes I'll just make a drawing because that trending sound or sound just popped up, and I'm like, hey, I really like that, and I'm just going to use it. And again, there's a reason for everything that I do. So when I'm coming up with something, I'm like, I really need to kind of work on this angle of this dragon, or I need to work on this kind of feel of these two characters together, or I need to work on landscape because I avoid that at all costs. So I use that as a lesson, as also finding what inspired me in order to push me to get to that, and kind of combining it into like one video.
I completely understand. I've been asked before, and I'm like, look, man, nobody's watching my TikTok. I'm doing TikToks because I'm entertaining myself.
Yeah.
And if somebody was like, what do you mean you're entertaining yourself? Watch my TikToks.
Yeah.
I'm having a blast. I'm getting a kick out of what I'm doing. If you pay attention, you'll see that's exactly what's going on.
I mean, it is. And like, TikTok is not what it used to be for I thought it was such a great platform for creative people.
Yeah.
And then now it's very random. When something gets to 1,000 views, I'm like, nobody expected that one. Oh, well.
And that's always the funny thing is, because you never expect it. You're like, I don't know what I did.
Yeah. But I mean, like, Instagram and YouTube are trying to keep up with that, which is actually benefiting creators more. Mm-hmm. Because if you can record your videos without the TikTok watermark that it usually puts on there, and you put that on Instagram, like I've weighed those, I've like experimented, and the view count without a TikTok logo was way higher than it was with the watermark that they had on there. And, the CEO of Instagram was saying, we're looking out for smaller creators now. We want them to stay here and want them to feel encouraged, and not just support big, Instagram creators that are also getting partnerships and stuff like that. They're not stupid from a business mindset. They're not going to let those people go, and they're not going to throw their big creators under the bus. But it was a smart move to step on TikTok's toes a little bit, and say, you know what, we'll take care of those creators that are trying to get any kind of views, and we'll give them those views. And it's been a pretty interesting shift. I'm liking YouTube Shorts though, because it's like, I feel like they know me better than TikTok For You page knows me.
It's funny because, like, I understand what you're saying with Instagram, because I find myself more on Instagram than I do on TikTok, and then I do on Facebook. And I find myself putting out more little videos on the Instagram itself, because, you're just doing whatever and putting it out there, especially like if I'm at the conventions. It's so much easier to take to do what I'm doing, put it on the Instagram, and put it out into the world. Like, it's boom, boom, boom.
Right.
With TikTok, it's like, okay, I'm filming this. Now I gotta do this and this and this. I'm like, with Instagram, it's like film, boom, go. You can do the same thing as TikTok, but at the same time, you can just put it up there if you want.
Yeah. Well, and Instagram, I think, enjoys event-related content.
It does.
Because it does drive so many people together because they're already either at that event or they're in close proximity. Exactly. I mean, honestly, if you really break it down, the algorithms aren't hard to figure out. It's what exactly the specific things that they're trying to use and what they pull specifically. Because what does everybody say? Use trending sounds, post in the middle of the day, and use these hashtags. But which of those hashtags was actually working for me? Was that sound what was actually working for me? Was my voiceover working for me? And, truth be told, my voiceovers don't work out that well for me. That's why I stopped doing that. But it is, like, I've been, like, with Inktober, I put a deadline to myself to have the drawing done by noon every day. So if that means I have to get up earlier, or I have to sketch it the night before, or even start recording the night before, then so be it. So it's finding that kind of rhythm. And I've noticed that if I have it posted before noon, at least on Instagram and YouTube, then I'm good. Like I actually get some really good engagement.
Right.
But anything later than that, forget it. And on TikTok, if I post on the weekends, they're like, you exist not to me.
Oh,
I'm like, okay.
definitely. I've seen that before. Well, I'll post up something on the weekend and it's like 0. And I'm like,
forever for like 2 days. And then you'll get like 2 views and you're like, oh, thanks.
oh,
I just had an event on Saturday evening that I was trying to talk about, but forget it now.
oh yeah, it's so funny because especially with TikTok, it's like we're doing this coming in a couple days, and then you'll see the video start doing well after the event happens, and you're like, dude, it's too late. I don't care if the video
It's
does
like
well. I
it's
want
like
them to go
living
to
with
the
a
event.
drunk relative that decided to wake up after their long hangover. They're like, oh yeah, I got you. I'm like, it's fine.
I gotta admit, at least with Instagram, it's like, oh yeah. So a couple people saw the fact that on Sunday you guys are doing this. I'm like, okay, that works.
Yeah.
I don't even mind. It's a couple of people. I'm like,
Yeah.
those couple of people know who wouldn't have known.
Yeah, exactly.
But I really I enjoy what you do with the TikTok. I have to admit, I was going to tell you that I love the voiceovers to the Inktober because it feels like it's from that book itself, and that's why at first I thought it was from that book because I was like, oh, I need to tell Madelyn that I'll do a story and I'll do a voiceover, and then I'll move ahead on your list and do one, and then have you do something from it.
Yeah, we could totally do that. I have I thumbnailed all of the drawings that I wanted to do this month. A couple of them I've already decided to change it up, but the initial idea is there, so I won't have to worry about too much detail. But there's I'll send you a picture of it and you can pick whatever title. Yeah. And I'll tell you okay, well, this is the storyline behind this title. And if you don't like it, then scrap that idea and go on to a different title. And then you could just record something on Instagram, how they do the voice thing. Mm-hmm. And then I just screen record that and then just add it into CapCut.
I like that. All right.
Oh, I got all kinds of video editing tricks up my sleeve.
So do that. Send me a couple of the ones that you're working on that you want to see me work on, and it'll be like a double challenge. It'll be like because I don't know what I'm doing, and you kind of don't know what I'm doing, but you have an idea of what you want, so it kind of leaves it up in the air to what the final product is going to be.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. There goes Izzyverse, who's going to be there at New York Comic Con this weekend, going good stuff. Thanks, Izzy. I love working with Madelyn because it always comes out. You know how sometimes you can predict how something's going to go.
Yep.
With you, I can't predict how it's going to go. I'm like, okay, I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah. And you know what? So you just have that feeling when something's going to go wrong, and it goes against the people that say, well, if you think it and you say it, then it's going to happen that way. Because yes, that's true. But there's also reality, and how things just work.
Exactly.
And if something unexpected happens, it's because it went literally against everything that you already know about the situation. And then, I'm told, you're being negative. I'm like, am I? Or am I being a realist with an optimistic attitude?
Exactly.
And people are like, that doesn't make sense. I'm like, I know, but it's happening. This nonsense is happening. So what do you expect?
I completely feel you. I've had to have that explanation to some people too, because there's times where I'm like, oh no, this is not gonna work, and like, oh, Ralph, how can you do? And then if I break it down, and then they'll look at me like, how are you breaking this down, dude? The first book series that I started to read, because I got into detectives and detective noir, and I got into a young age, and because of that, I read Sherlock Holmes when I was really young.
Yeah.
And Sherlock messes up your head because he actually tells you how to do what he does, and then you start breaking things down in a way where it's not being pessimistic. It's just you're looking at the way things are going, and you realize this is how it's gonna go.
Right. It becomes predictable.
Exactly.
And unfortunately, people are just as predictable as they are unpredictable.
Boom.
And the more you can pinpoint somebody's next move, I think are the ones that you'll just end up the most shocked from when they go out of their element, because they have this routine that they don't even realize that they do.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and you pick up on that, and you understand different personality traits. And I'm sure as a writer, studying personalities and different personality traits is kind of like fascinating, because you're like, I know a character that needs that trait right now, And so when you're in a real life situation, you see these people and you're like, oh my gosh, I know you. I wrote you. I wrote about you. I drew you.
Exactly.
I'm not going to say that out loud in this conversation, but that's what's happening right now.
People get upset.
These people are like, you're so, you're pleasant to talk to or whatever. And I'm like, I've already talked to you before. You just don't know it.
Oh, I totally agree with you. I do it myself. I'll sit there and all these things are happening in my head. It's like mathematical equations.
Yes.
Oh, wait, this person. Oh, if you take this and that over there, and everybody's looking at me like, everything okay, Ralph? Yeah, everything's fine.
Just good. Just watching the universe unfold. I get it now. Science class makes more sense. Thank you.
Yeah. But it's funny because as a writer and as an artist, we watch people. We are people watchers.
Yeah.
It's just that some of us watch more than others, or some of us you can tell are watching, and some of us you can't tell are watching.
Oh yeah. I tell my kids I'm an observant person, just naturally. And I'll pick up something like a little toy or a certain color nail polish or something just because they mentioned it. And I stored it away, and I was at the store. I was like, oh hey, I remember you said that you wanted, red nail polish or whatever. And they're like, you remember that? I'm like, yeah, it's kind of like my job as your mom, one. And two, this is what it means to listen to other people and actually take what they say into heart.
Yeah. And it's something that a lot of people don't do, which is why a lot of people are hungry, to be listened to, because, it's so rare that people actually listen.
Yeah.
Everybody goes, oh, I listen. But no. There's an actually listen.
Yeah.
And there's a listen where we're like, they're saying something. Their mouth is moving.
and it's like, well, a lot of people just wait to talk, and it's not, they're not actually listening. They hear you, like your hearing's great, but your comprehension skills, and some people, and then it makes them difficult to understand those people that can't just directly say what they're trying to say. And I think a lot of the black and white kind of thinkers are like, well, they're just purposely being frustrating. I'm like, or they really do have this like block that keeps them from being direct, because whatever happened in the past, whatever led to this moment, made them too terrified. Like they're acting out of fear. They're trying to say what they're trying to say, but they're too scared to say it just directly. So when somebody's like, well, you were just being passive aggressive, like, was it? Or were they just trying to say something and then they meant it the wrong way or whatever? And then when you finally figure it out for them, or you give them the right words and they like use that as a tool, then they can say it. And all it did was just take to listen to them,
yeah, exactly.
And not assume that they're trying to attack you or that they're trying to demean you in some way. I think that's, especially nowadays, I think that's kind of a hard line for some people to walk, because not everybody has malicious intent. They don't know how to speak what they need to.
And somebody who doesn't know how to speak sometimes, or I get stuck somewhere, or, like you're like yourself, sometimes emotions don't register the way they should, or I can't express myself emotionally in certain ways, but I already know this, and I've come to the point where, you take that into account in your actions. You go, okay, so I know that sometimes I am not going to be there.
Yeah.
So, I need to realize that I'm not going to be there and try to be as the person I can be. Because I know that I'm not going to be there. And you take that into account, you start to balance everything out. So I know exactly where you're coming from. There's times where something will happen and I'm like, oh, I'm supposed to hug the person right now.
Yeah.
It's actually a thought process.
That's why I keep candy in my purse. I'm like, you need food, eat something.
Exactly.
I eat. I'm an eater with anything. I'm not like a binge stress eater. I'm about to cook at 2 a.m. this big meal for myself because I can't sleep and I'm stressed out and I need good food.
Yeah.
And my mother doesn't live with me to cook for me at 2 a.m.
Exactly.
Not that like she was ever, but like, you know, that's just how I am. Like I always offer food because I can't tell when somebody needs or wants a hug unless they just say it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Once somebody goes, I need, you know, either they knew the motion or that. But there's times where I'll sit there and there's a moment happening, and I'm like, and they're all doing their thing. I'm still listening, but I'm like, so do I hug? Do I not hug?
There is a right
The pat in
answer,
the
and I
back
don't know what
good.
it is.
Oh, I completely understand where you're coming from. And
Yeah.
it's funny because a lot of people go, "Oh my God, you're so loving, Ralph," and I'm like, "Mm."
Am I? Because I'm uncomfortable.
And so I know where you. As soon as you said that, I was like, "Oh, that reminds me."
Yeah.
Speaking of which, I do want to showcase before because I see we're getting near our time there. I want to showcase the piece you were talking about. You know, the captain, because you know it's an amazing piece. You did I can see it, the passion you put into it. All right, here we go. I was looking for the best one to put up, and I figured this will be the. Oh, look at that! Mm, wow. So I can just see your heart in this. So
Yeah.
you know, and from what you were saying before, I can see what you know. You were saying something when we were in the green room about this piece about what it is. Can you like repeat it again?
Yeah, yeah. Captain represents purpose and conviction. Um, I knew when I was starting that piece, I wanted it to be a strong piece that represented both those things. And it was not a whole lot of debate in my head on what I needed to draw exactly. I knew I wanted to work with a lot of detail in this piece. And so that kind of took me to an armor type of feel. It really was just like a whole progression of what can I draw that represents purpose and conviction, and then get to this point where it's this guy that you don't see his whole face. He has all this big, you know, fur around him. There's dents in his armor. He has rankings on his armor. You don't know like who, like why is he there, but you know when you look at him that you wouldn't really question his motives
Mm-hmm.
because the way he stands, like I purposely have him to where he's a little bit bigger than the paper so that way you are focusing on the hits that he's taken
Right.
throughout and all his fights. You know, he's the dragon riders of I don't even remember the whole land that I came up with. It was a whole lot of like story and note taking, but anyway, he was, you know, with them, and I really wanted whatever it took for this person, this guy, to represent somebody who like their whole life is around fulfilling that one specific purpose because that's all he does, you know.
Right.
And it was a lot of it was a lot of hours. It was a lot of quiet when I was drawing this piece, so I think that just like kind of really took in a lot for me. But this one's like going to be, like I said, a very tough one to get rid of if it ever sells. And I don't know, I would like to hand deliver it. I think if I ever get to sell that, and if it's within reason, I would love to hand deliver this artwork.
Like I said, you can feel the passion. You can feel the intensity in it. You know, and every time I see it, it's just, you know, you feel there's a story here. There's something here, and again, if it's what we've been saying this whole time, during this whole interview, is that whole, where's your purpose? Where are your dreams?
Yeah.
What are you doing? You know, and I feel like this world tries to beat that out of you. And I feel like one of the things you need to do is just to keep it and live your life and take your journey, you know?
Right.
And it's funny because I didn't pick the finished piece. This just is halfway finished. So if you guys want to see how it really comes out, and it's even more beautiful than this, you should check out her site, her Instagram, her web page, her Facebook. her TikTok. You do a good job of social media.
Thank you. That's 10 years of burnout on social media right there.
Oh,
I've
I
been
know where you're
posting
coming
for a
from.
long time.
I know where you're coming from. It's one of the things that I hate to do, but at the same time, it has to be done.
Right. And I definitely have tried different avenues. Thankfully, what I'm doing with Inktober has been working out. I think the best, since a lot of the algorithm changes across social media. So thankfully, that's working out in my favor. But with like, doing a piece like this, it's difficult for technology reasons.
Right.
And it's difficult because I don't, as much as I like recording my process, it's so difficult to actually record my process and get the right angle
Exactly.
and me not mess up the drawing.
Yeah,
Because
I
I
can
was
see
doing that
that
a
it's
lot.
uncomfortable sometimes the way
Yeah.
you're doing things.
Yeah. And otherwise the camera's gonna be like right here on my face. And you're gonna like hear heavy breathing and my hair's gonna get in the way. Like that's the only way that I could not mess up the drawing. But any other time I'm just like angled at the side and the camera's there and it gets so frustrating.
Yeah. You do a good job at it, and I can see you work hard at it, because yeah, it just comes across even in the TikToks and the videos. It really does come across.
Thank you.
You do great work. People, you should commission her to do a piece because she is just amazing and she actually can see into your head.
Yeah. It's a superpower.
Exactly. It's funny that you were saying like your project and it's going to take you a while. I'll take as long as you need to take. I've been working on, and I always have to show it off because Shadow Rabbit did a fantastic thing when he made my dreams into reality, and it's my superhero teddy bear, and it's a story I've been working on for a long time, and I've been slowly working on it. Part of it is the money. The other part of it is that I want it to be done the right way.
Right. Yeah. There's
know.
those certain projects that have to have, and they have that criteria. And if you can't meet it, then they're not going to get work done.
Exactly. And I'd rather take my time putting it out than rush to put it out. So I understand exactly where you're coming from. That's what I was gonna say. Just take your time.
Yeah.
I can actually see your comic in my head. So I'm like, yeah, because you do such beautiful work, and I keep going. This translates into comics.
Yeah, it does. And it's a lot of, I think my style went from working with pencil and charcoal. So focusing on a lot of value, heavy value and perspective. And then I just stopped because I was tired of drawing realistic. I can draw very realistic. My most realistic piece was a Mother Teresa drawing that I did in one day, but it was a close up of her face. So I was doing like every single wrinkle. It was like right before she passed too. So, I mean, every line was on there, but I was like, when I draw realistically, I wasn't bringing anything different than a picture, because some people do photorealism, but they're able to capture something different than a photo would. And when in their drawing, and my drawings weren't translating like that. So when I switched over to illustration, I'll tell you, I did not know what I was doing. I was just using lines and random stuff. So I looked up line work, and lo and behold, comics and tattoos were the things that inspired my work so much. And like, if you watch the progression, you can see it went from super heavy comic style to leaning towards tattoos. And now it's kind of like forming into this whole, like, it's such a weird thing that's happening that half the time I don't realize that's the direction it's going until it's already almost done. And I'm like, we just got to keep finishing it now, whatever.
But it's funny because it's a storytelling art style. And that's why I see it. It's like whether it's comic, whether it's whatever, you feel it. It's like there's a story being told through this art. It's a storytelling artwork, and I think that's what I like the most about your style. And I love stories, and I love telling stories. So I feel like, I can see the storytelling in this.
Right.
You know, at least that's the way I've broken down.
Well, yeah, you probably recognize a lot of symbolism too.
Oh yeah, a lot of research and studying and years of Joseph Campbell and Carl Jung and
Yeah.
and what are writers but researchers, which is always funny to me when somebody's like, oh, I can't find this, and I'm like,
What are you talking about? Just ask me. I already know.
it's the funniest thing. Like I'll have somebody go, oh, I looked it up on Google, and then I'll go type in a couple things on Google and I'll find it right away, and I'll be like, it's right there.
Silver platter info there.
And they're like, how did you find that? I'm like, I put in the search and it came
It's the
up.
way you phrased it. It's exactly the way you phrased it. And I actually hired a coaching team to help me with my, like, I don't want to take time away from social media, but I don't want to rely on social media to find my clients. It's a good outlet. It's great for that. Mm-hmm. But if somebody wants to find an illustrator or a muralist or whatever, I want them to be able to search in Google in the wrong way and in the right way, and still my stuff come up. Mm-hmm. So I actually hired a coaching team. It was relatively within budget. I really had to stretch that out a little bit, but it was worth it because the biggest thing I learned was key phrases. It's when I put in my Inktober stuff, it's not Inktober 2022 that people really care about. They care about the prompt list from this year, but they only care about the ink drawings that go with the prompts or just day 4 Inktober. Yeah. So that was one thing I picked up on. And I think that's one thing that really kick started, it's obviously a popular thing right now, but being able to kind of grab on to that and hold on and ride that ride, all of those keywords matter, and like you said, you're able to search it. The way your brain works with the words, you're probably able to find a whole lot of stuff. So now you just have to reverse engineer that with your own work and put all those key phrases in every image on your website. Everything has to have it because Google pulls from everything. It's unreal. It's a little scary once you really understand it and you're taught that kind of method. And then you're like, wow, I wonder what kind of crap I put on the internet 15 years ago is still floating around with the wrong key phrases. But it's fine.
Of the internet. That's what I tell my daughter, I tell kids, I'll be like, dude, just watch what you put on there because it's there forever.
The internet is forever. It is undying. Oh, my word.
And I always say the same thing because one of the things they say with Gen X is we don't talk about the woods. And if social media was in the woods, would you all be in trouble?
Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad. So thankful. I don't even talk about my past teenage years for that very reason. Because we're like, what would you like, teenager? I was like, oh, I was quiet. You didn't want to be my friend. Just ignore it. But I was like, and I told my mom, I was like, the amount of times that I lied to you and I probably should have been dead on some random person's property. None of us even knew their property. I'm surprised we didn't get shot at. Just so many times, but it was, I could not imagine being a Gen Z kid that has access to posting on the internet right now. I'm like, no, I would beg my parents to be homeschooled or I'd run away, something, because I would never want to be posted on there like that.
We are here in front of this haunted house that I'm not supposed to be at.
The location's right here, live streaming on TikTok.
Exactly. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right, though. I should have been dead ages ago. I've done things where I should have known better.
Yeah.
And yeah, if social media was around during our time, the way it is now, because so it was there in some ways, especially as I got older, but it's not how it is now.
No, it's quicker, it's faster, and you just do one thing and it can blow up and everybody will know about it.
Yeah, you can go viral.
Yeah.
Oh, I can see we're having way too much fun. All right, so tell the people. Well, one last question: Have you ever considered doing any of the conventions? Because I feel like your work would work well in the conventions.
I used to do the conventions before 2020. The last one I went at last year was not, it wasn't great, and it wasn't because of sales or lack of appreciation. My work is just wasn't what was in, because at that, like, you know, it is still kind of like this depending on where you go. The smaller conventions is very anime heavy.
Yeah.
And my work is not anime at all in any sense of the word. Not that I don't like anime or anything, but I've gotten so far away from drawing fan art because I had this guilt with me, like drawing and selling fan art. Like I'll still kind of do it, but only if I have a really good connection with that kind of fan art piece.
Right.
Other than that, like doing it for commissions, that's fine. But doing it to have like a nice setup at comic conventions, it just, I couldn't do it. I couldn't sell it because it wasn't like, it didn't feel right. And so with my work, it requires a lot more talking when you bring in your own original artwork in, which again is fine. But somebody comes in the middle of the conversation and they're like, wait, what did you just say? And you're like, so this piece is this, you know, like it's a sales thing. And, you know, being a salesperson takes a lot of energy, and that's energy I know that you were talking about being on panels, which is great. I think I would love that, like just to sit and talk for an extended period of time and then just stop talking. I'm fine with that, you know.
It makes sense, you know, and you might want to go that route, like get yourself on some good panels that talk about aspects of what you do, and that way you have a built-in audience, and you know they'll I liked what she had. Let's go to her table later.
Yeah, exactly. Like that would, I mean, it would be nice. I really want to try to go to art fairs. I've only been to a couple of those. I felt way more comfortable going to Comic-Con than I did art fairs, but now I feel like I've really kind of leaned into a voice of my art style that I can stand confidently in an art booth and say, okay, yes, this is all my art. This is all my imagination. This is a very vulnerable part of me, and I'm okay with expressing that to you, and I don't care if you like it or not. You know, like that, it takes a certain level of confidence.
I'm the same way. Like I said, when I'm doing my TikToks, there's no thought in my mind about is this gonna get views? I'm like, am I making myself laugh? Am I entertaining myself?
Yes, like if somebody asks to watch your videos, you don't want to be like, oh, you can't watch that one because I messed that one up or whatever. Like, no, watch this one, because after I made it, I was dying laughing for 10 minutes. Exactly. Like that's what's important.
It's the same thing with my writing. Like a lot of people go, oh, you know, don't you worry about people and how they're gonna take it? I'm like, no, because I'm writing for me. I'm not really writing for them. And they're like, oh, how can you be like that? You know, and the audience has something to do with it, but at the same time, I'm not at that point where the audience can decide where my story goes.
Right. But even then, like writing for the general masses means you would have to dumb it down.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the reality of it. And you don't want to sell yourself short just to reach a few people that will support you probably just one time. Like you want this person that's going to, or the group of people that are willing to support you on a consistent basis, not just monetarily, but like, you know, in an energy way, because you're kind of doing that for them with your work. So they're willing to support you with the way that you need it so you can continue your work.
And it's important what you just said. It's the whole concept of supporting the artist and the people that you like, because I know a lot of people think that money is always the important thing. No, sometimes it's sharing. Sharing, if you like something, share the hell out of it. The more you share it, the more it helps the person that you're helping with sharing. You know, and I can't say this enough times, and we say it here all the time, especially when it comes to Kickstarters or people's art or something. Just take it, share it. You know, you don't know who in your friend list is going to like this, because we assume we know the people in our lives, but sometimes they'll surprise you. And of course, speaking of that, where can they find you? Give them all the places they can go to see your stuff.
Oh, definitely TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. Facebook is kind of like a safety net that catches from Instagram. So if you're on Facebook and you see my stuff on Instagram, it's pretty much the same thing. But I also have a website where on day 10, I have a whole Inktober page on my website.
Ooh.
On day 10, though, I will have the mock-up for the Inktober tapestry that I'm using. Instead of putting all these drawings into a book, I decided that I'm going to put them in like a grid-like tapestry where it looks like all these book titles, and it's going to have like a nice little caption on the bottom.
Right.
I've never done a lot of promo work or hype work behind a tapestry. So I don't know how this is going to sell, how well this is going to sell or not. But it'll be on my website regardless. So we'll see how it works out.
That's always that's always the risk we take when it comes to making stuff, because we don't know how it's going to hit. We know how much we like it, but again, going back to what we were just saying, we don't know how it's going to hit, how people are going to like it.
Right.
So it's always a risk. Speaking of your website, there it is, Madelyn Janelle Art. And it's funny because you're so easy to find, because as soon as you start typing Madelyn Janelle, it's like,
yeah.
So you've been doing a good job at the social media.
Well, it's social media for sure, but if you look on Google, you don't type in .com. My website it's not the first thing that shows up. And a lot of that was the keyword thing. When I wasn't posting so much on TikTok and Instagram, I was doing a lot of like business side of stuff,
right?
Which was really hard for me, but like creatively. But it also helped me because anytime I got an idea, I was very disciplined and just wrote the idea down, sketched it real quick, and then left it alone. And then like now I haven't even returned to half those ideas. But if I wasn't working on the business side of everything, I would have stopped in the middle of a project and started that new idea and then just ran with that idea until another one showed up and then not finished the first one. So in a workflow, it actually was better for me to pull back for a couple of weeks, edit the images, edit the website, do the key phrases, keywords that we were talking about. It's like stressful. And I love people that want to do this for a living because I don't want to do this for a living. Yeah. I want to get the money so I can pay them to continue doing this for a living, and I'll do my work. So you know what I mean? But it's so worth it. Oh, I've seen such a difference in just like getting traction to my website just by doing and taking those 2 weeks to actually invest in the business side of it.
Oh, I completely feel you, because when I'm running around, I'm doing all the stuff, and I know things have to go up, especially when I'm doing cons at that moment. I find that the engagement is better when you're at the convention and you're putting stuff up.
Right.
Because, people want now. And with a convention, you get
right,
that's a lot of work to do the convention and to do the stuff that needs to come out of the convention.
Right. And it's better with you, like for you to have a team that's all working on like one page, not everybody's working separately, individually, and running around like crazy people trying to post individually on their own pages. Like you all work together and collaborate, or even just have somebody that's designated to do the content creating or, and posting, and, another person like you would be there doing the interview or whatever you needed to do. And I think it's hard for artists to relinquish that kind of control because you have a vision and you're so set that your vision is so unique to you, where it's not, and it is, but it's not. And, you have to trust that somebody will hear you and understand you and do what you need them to do.
Exactly. And teams are always a better way to go, even though there's some issues with teams, but at the same time, teams actually help you out. They help you move forward.
Yeah.
Completely understand where you're coming from. All right, folks, go to Madelyn Janelle's page, check her out with her TikToks, check out her art, check out her website. She does fantastic work. I cannot say that enough. I'm a big fan. You know, I am completely a big fan. I love your storytelling style.
Thank you. I'm glad.
Nathan, are you still
Yes.
there? You got anything to say?
Don't forget to tune back in with us on Monday for the post-convention conversation. And don't forget to follow Floofschmallow on Instagram, Twitter, DeviantArt, all that good stuff. She got some really nice artworks in the works. I guarantee you by the end of the month, you'll be surprised with just how much is going to be dropping from her. I've seen it already. It's looking beautiful. You'll be amazed at what they got in the pipeline. So
Especially the secret projects, yeah.
it's just about I'm taking a look at this promotional work that they got going on that I think they're looking at dropping it maybe in 2 weeks. Little spoiler, but
yeah. I can't wait. I can't wait to see what they
It's
have.
so
going.
cute. I love it.
Her style is really beautiful. It's cute. It's unique to her.
It is.
oh, just you wait till you see the new stuff. It's gonna blow your mind.
Floof is great. Follow Floofschmallow. She is, of course, Shen, which is one of our Apple teenies or Apple Bites here. And she's a great person with a beautiful art style. And dude, if you want to commission her to do a Pokemon for you, you know, right now she's busy, but when she can do it, you know, you will not regret it because dude, it's just I love the way she does her stuff and mixes other things into it. There we go.
Just give her maybe two to 3 more weeks and things will free up. But
or just feel free to just give her money for no reason, just to continue on. Just give her money.
Definitely.
You know, you really help artists out when you actually like support them. So if you want to like, hey, you know, I like this artist, so you can send $1 over. That's a lot.
Just give them $5. It's fine. If everybody did it, everybody would be fine.
Get her a good sandwich. Like just randomly Uber her a sandwich.
That
would love food.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. I don't think
too.
I would die of happiness if somebody's like, I just ordered you food randomly. Oh, first of all, I don't know how you got my address, but thank you.
I gotta admit, I'm the same way. I'm like, you know, my friends call me over. It's like, oh, Ralph, can you help me move? I have pizza. I'm like, what?
What was that? I'm already getting my shoes on.
Exactly. Well, there you have it, folks. Of course, it's always a pleasure to have Madelyn on because we always have fun, geek out, talk, shop. And today's been all over the place, and I hope you guys have enjoyed it. It was a lot of good stuff.
Yep.
And Madelyn, you are more than welcome to pop up anytime you want, whether if you want to guest host or you just want to come on and talk to us about something.
Yeah.
And there you have it, folks. I will do what I always do here at the Written Writ, and I'll press this button, and when it stops,